And hello everybody, welcome back to British Stand. Yes, we've got another Labour MP, lost for words, as she of course is grilled on live television by a news host. I'm starting to like this little theme, but as always in these sort of interviews, they can never really hold accountability and all of these kind of things. But of course, after the grooming gang inquiry U-turn, there has been a lot of backlash, certainly after Labour MPs, and especially Keir Starmer stated that ministers that were demanding justice for these victims were jumping on a far-right bandwagon, and stated that was the reason why they weren't going to be doing an inquiry. Anyway, everyone can kind of see through Labour and what they are and what they're all about, and today we're going to be watching a news host go in on a Labour MP. Let's have a watch of this, guys, but as always, please do smash the like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Have a watch.
Report by Baroness Casey into the grooming gangs today.
That's after the Prime Minister says the findings convinced him to announce a full-scale national inquiry.
Let's talk to Emma Reynolds, should we, who's joining us now, Economic Secretary to the Treasury. Good morning to you. There's a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister to apologise. Why on earth, on this issue, did he politicise it earlier in the year, saying people who wanted a full national inquiry were jumping on a far-right bandwagon, only to now decide that actually they were right in the first place?
Well, I remember distinctly that at Prime Minister's questions in January, the Prime Minister rightly said that there were different views on both sides of this debate, and actually victims and victims' families had different views too. But what we did in January is that we asked every police force to reopen investigations. We now have over 800 reopened cases. We've ordered the National Crime Agency to follow those up. So the Prime Minister and the government as a whole, our priority all along was to, and it continues to be, to deliver justice for the victims and their families and get to the bottom of what happened.
How can people believe that you are genuine in wanting to get justice for those young girls and those women, those survivors of those child rape gangs, let's call it what it is, when you've got the likes of Lucy Powell calling it dog whistle politics?
Well, look, we take this issue incredibly seriously. The Prime Minister was Director of Public Prosecutions, and he acted 10 years ago in that position on these issues. He was the first to take a prosecution to grooming gangs. We have set out now a proper plan. We've listened to what Baroness Casey, who at the start of her review didn't think there needed to be a national inquiry, but has since uncovered gaps. We have supported the setup of local inquiries. We don't want to rerun what Alexis Jay did for 7 years until 2022. We have already taken forward some of her recommendations. The last government, frankly, did nothing in the time they were in office on the 20 recommendations that she put out in 2022. So we are...
You can play bingo with these things all the time. It's always, blame the previous government, talk about what Keir did in the past and all of these kind of things. It's always the same shit with them, isn't it? It really, really is.
Forging ahead with urgent action here to deliver justice for the victims.
Yes, but you haven't as yet sort of answered any of the questions we've put to you. You've avoided the point, which is...
And that bit as well, you've avoided the point. They always tiptoe around actual questions and never actually answer the proper questions and give actual answers.
I mean, yes, whatever action's been taken before, great, but there was calls for a national inquiry, and anyone who looked at the evidence that GB News put forward, for example, with the work that our reporter has done, would have said, yeah, it's a very simple answer to this question. There clearly needs to be a national inquiry. This is a huge problem. And you politicised it as a government. You politicised that and said there was no need for it. And now you've changed your mind. That you've got to address that, haven't you?
Well, look, the Prime Minister was talking about Conservative ministers who were politicising this issue, who, frankly, had sat in government offices for years, sat on the recommendations from the Alexis Jay report and not taken those forward. He also said, however, that there were strong views and opinions on both sides of this debate as to whether there needed to be a national inquiry. But the one that Louise Casey is calling for is to coordinate local inquiries and to fill the gaps. It is not a rerun of the Alexis Jay inquiry, because we do not want to wait another 7 years before we take action, which is why we have prioritised taking action, reopening cases, ordering the National Crime Agency to follow up those over 800 cases now reopened since January, since the Home Secretary ordered the police to reopen the cases into grooming. So we are making progress, and we want to make progress as quickly as possible. And that's what is important here. What's important is the victims. The victims have to be at the centre of this inquiry and the centre of this work, and we need to take urgent action, and we already are making progress.
You say you want to get to the bottom of this quickly. You say you don't want it to take another 7 years. How long, then, will this new national inquiry take, and what funding is going to be given to it?
Well, the Home Secretary will make those things clear later on, where she makes a statement when the Baroness Casey report is published later today. So you'll get more clarity on that later today.
How helpful is it when, I mean, we know there is a significant problem which is still existing at the moment. We talk in historic terms, but actually this is an ongoing issue, which is why speed is essential in all of this. Why then does someone like Sadiq Khan, the Labour Mayor of London, when he's asked about grooming gangs in London, say, I don't understand the question?
Well, look, as a government, we take this issue very seriously. The point you make is right. This is about historic grooming gangs inquiries, but it's also to ensure that we look into anything that's current and make sure that we get justice for the victims, but also to protect young girls and protect our children.
Can I ask you about the situation between Iran and Israel? It's intensified over the weekend.
Sure.
What's your reaction to what you've seen?
The government is prioritising de-escalation. We're very concerned about the instability and the situation in the Middle East. We've urged both sides to show restraint, to step back from action. The Prime Minister, as you know, is in Canada and is already talking to G7 leaders. So we want all diplomatic pressure to come to bear on both sides so that we can get them back round the table to have a diplomatic solution to this situation.
Can I ask you about transport? The spending review saw the Department of Transport lose 5% on an annual day-to-day budget basis, so we understand capital investments going up. I know you're announcing today £1 billion which will be spent on renewal of bridges, ruined roads and tunnels, and a new Thames crossing. It doesn't seem like a lot of money. I mean, I know it is, but in real terms, I mean, the pothole experts in this country say it would cost 16 billion just to repair our roads.
Well, on the spending review, in terms of the Department for Transport, one of the reasons for the figures that you've just talked about is that during COVID, there needed to be greater rail subsidy because there were fewer people using the railways. Now that subsidy has reduced significantly because there are more and more people travelling to work than there were obviously during COVID times. The £1 billion structures fund...
All right, well, I'm done with listening to that crap towards the end there. Again, there was only a few seconds left of that, but that was just nonsense. But guys, what did you think about the whole grooming gang U-turn and in that full national inquiry? Of course, it's very important that it's now happening. But what do you make of the Labour government and the way that they've went about it, the delay into getting here? And what do you reckon Keir Starmer's motive is by doing this? There's always something that's in it for him. Otherwise, he would have done it back in February when the uproar was at its all-time high. But guys, as always, please do get involved in the comments, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all next time. Take care. Peace.